All right, council. Recording's on? Okay. So, I want to welcome you to the meeting at W.C. O'Neill Arena Complex in the council chambers at 24 Reed Avenue, Monday, December the 1st, 2025 at 6:30 p.m. This is our regular council meeting. And so all are present? Yes, all recording of attendance, everybody is present. We are on the unceded territory and traditional territory of the Beskotomakati Nation under the umbrella of the Lagwistagwe Nation, the Maliseet people. Thank you and welcome. We need an approval of the agenda, so I need a mover. Or we need a mover. Councillor Harlan, seconder. Councillor Heenan. Any discussion or changes, council? Not seeing any, then we will continue on. We need to vote, so all those in favor, say aye. Contrary minded? Carried. Disclosure of conflict, anyone? Council? Not seeing any. And so we will start with our presentations. The Charlotte County Archives, you're the first ones up. Welcome.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Akaji and councillors. Thank you for the opportunity to speak with you tonight. My name is Sandy Omson. I am the chair of the Charlotte County Archives Board, and it gives me great pleasure to introduce to you tonight our full-time archivist, Anna Krentz. Anna, if you'd like to join me. And I'm going to turn this presentation right over to Anna.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Is there a slide clicky thing, or is it easier if I just ask next slide? Okay.
Next
no
slide.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, yeah, if it's possible. I can, yeah. Okay. Wonderful. Thank you. All right. So we're here tonight requesting a grant to fund the. Let's see. Where do I point to that?
Should be able to click.
Okay. That's okay. Next slide. Okay. So we are requesting a grant to fund the efforts of digitizing a significant number of archival records in our collection made by the town of St. Andrews itself, and to make these records available online so that the public can access them more easily. Digitization and online access are extremely important tools in making the public aware of what an archive holds and encouraging wider use of the information within. The town itself is clearly aware of the importance of sharing records with the public, as you have increasingly been doing on your own website. And just click for one image to come up.
Click back.
Yeah. Yeah, as you have been doing on your own website. As you appreciate, access to governmental records enables transparency, accountability, and informed decision-making. This is as true of records from 1950 as from 2020. Next slide. We are fortunate to hold a variety of records made by or for the St. Andrews Town Council, as well as municipal bodies such as the St. Andrews Fire Department. These records are evidence of past actions taken by the government and the community. They provide insight into town development, background to current concerns, and documentation of events affecting the town. Many also provide content of general interest to town citizens, property owners, and visitors. In this image are the main groupings of records this project would focus on. We have approximately 40 Town of St. Andrews annual reports from the 1920s to the 1960s. We have numerous town bylaws and reports. We have all the records books of the St. Andrews Fire Department from the 1860s to 1960s, most of which note all calls, from backyard barn fires to the burning of the Algonquin Hotel in 1914 and the 1939 fire, which destroyed the first St. Andrew's Arena on Christmas Eve. Finally, we have selected other relevant items, including an 1840s account book for the town of St. Andrews and Shamcook, and the 1786 Crown land grant for the town property itself. Many of these records came to the archives from the town, while others were acquired and donated by private individuals. Members of the public, the government, and the media are currently able to request to view these records, but it must be done on site at the archives. Next slide. As you know, we are located in the jail in St. Andrews, a place which can be an obstacle for those with mobility issues. The building and its judicial past can feel intimidating. Our hours are limited and our staff time is tight. Physical records require careful handling, and for their preservation, really the less handling, the better. Records available online can be accessed at any time, from anywhere, without having to ask, wait, or worry about fragile originals. Easy access is a major benefit to community residents, who are especially affected by the past choices the archival records document. Online access also allows for the engagement of those who may not currently be situated in the area. For these reasons, digitization and online access are priorities to government archives around the country. The Provincial Archives of New Brunswick, for instance, recently made all their Crown land grants available online, prioritizing these materials because of their significance to the citizens of New Brunswick. The Charlotte County Archives is currently getting our digitization program up and running well. Next slide, please. We have up-to-date professional tools for digitization, including professional scanners, software, and a copy stand for item photography. We have procedures informed by best practices. We have a professional archivist, myself, with a master's degree in the field, over 10 years experience, and several professional publications. This is particularly notable in New Brunswick, where I may in fact be the only professional archivist not at the Provincial Archives, the New Brunswick Museum, or a university. No archives can digitize everything. Next slide, please. We have hundreds of thousands of individual sheets of paper in our collection. Each one takes time to scan or photograph properly, taking care not to cause damage. The digital images need to be in formats that will last long term, as well as formats that can be put online. We have to record each item so we can keep track of what it is and ensure users can find it. Even with a lot of experience, it can be slow going. So we have to prioritize, and there are a lot of priorities. We have to think about the whole Southwest New Brunswick region. We have to think about what people use our archives for, and what more we would like people to use our archives for. Most of all, we have to think about the priorities of our funders. We are a nonprofit with no regular funding from any level of government, relying almost entirely on year-by-year grants and donations from individuals. This is why we're asking for this grant. With funding from the town of St. Andrews, we can ensure that important records relating to the municipal government are a priority. Next slide, please. The town could then easily link to these records on your website and easily access them yourselves. The public could refer to them just as they can currently refer to more recent records. This availability would polish the town's reputation, especially given that it is already known for history and education. Next slide, please. Grant funds would be used almost exclusively to cover labor. The hourly cost of scanning or photographing, image processing, the creation of digital records, the process of putting the digitized images online, and the sharing of this new online access with the public. My salary receives no funding and relies on project grants and private donations. Needless to say, it is modest for an archival professional, at least $15,000 less annually than a similar position at the Provincial Archives. So the Charlotte County Charlotte County is getting a good deal. The $3,840 would fund 120 hours of my professional archival work on all steps of the process, which at minimum would cover the completion of the annual reports, the account book, all the fire department record books, and many other significant records. If the work goes faster than anticipated, additional relevant records would be included. The archives would cover all mandatory employer costs for the archivist's hours spent on the project. A small portion of the grant funds would be used to purchase an additional external hard drive for storage of the digitized images, to be used in conjunction with backups the archives already maintains. As we would be putting the digitized materials on our own collection site, which we pay for, we would also use a token amount as a contribution towards the cost of hosting. The archives would be using our own high-quality equipment for this project, much of it recently acquired. The cost of purchasing all the equipment necessary for a project like this would be over $4,450. Next slide, please. Here finally is a sample digitization of just one of the town annual reports, which I made just for this presentation. This one is from 1925, so exactly 100 years ago. At a glance, you can see how much information is in there. Our archival metadata would let you know what it covers if you were looking for something in particular, and our online collection would let you read all of it at home on the couch. Next slide, last slide. The ability of St. Andrews citizens to access the archival records that we hold relating to the town government, their properties, and governmental processes would strengthen community involvement with our past and understanding of the ways it informs our present. We would love to make digitization and online access of the town of St. Andrews records a priority, but that is only possible with your help. Thank you.
Sorry, thank you very much. Any questions, Council? Councillor Heenan?
Yes, thank you very much for your presentation. Quick question, your scanned records that you would do, what will happen to the original records?
Oh, we will keep them and keep preserving them. Scanning will help them to not be handled as much, which is good for their preservation, but we would continue to keep and maintain those in our vault, which is always the standard practice. There's too many horror stories of things being digitized and then lost when the originals weren't. But good question.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good. Councillor Harland?
Thank you for the presentation. It's always very informative, and I appreciate that. You make a very strong case around the importance of both providing an opportunity for us to engage the community from a broader perspective, other than just walking through the doors and going into the archives. And the fact that, we're a global world and our people are all over the place. I think that that's really important. But for me, I think it's also really critical that you have highlighted the importance of us continuing to stay connected to our past and to learn from our past. Absolutely. And to be informed by our past. For me, I think that is one of the invaluable services that the archives provides for us. And I feel that we are in St. Andrews are very, very fortunate to have you in our backyard.
Yes.
I am curious as to whether or not this opportunity might be available to other parts of the region. Whether you have considered looking at records for Eastern Charlotte or St. Stephen, etc.
Yeah, that's a great question. We are just really getting this digitization program going, and we want to expand it out so we have an even representation of this whole region. So it is a matter of not taking on more than we can chew, and starting step by step. But yeah, ultimately our goal is to seek out funding and support from all regions, and to go from there.
Okay. And my Deputy Mayor, can I ask one more question? Sure. Has there been, I know I've been very supportive and encouraging of trying to engage the other municipalities within our region and the Regional Service Commission, and I'm just wondering, for the public's information, has there been an opportunity to present what the archives provides this region to the Regional Service Commission to seek some funding from that level as well?
Yes, absolutely. Last year we did a presentation at one of the RSC meetings, myself, Sandy, and our former board chair, Franklin, where we did talk about the archives and our services and the support we would hope to get from them. And then this year as well, we were trying to follow it up, but they have been having some funding struggles of their own, as everyone is familiar with. But we really do see a future in connecting with them, and then in some of the municipalities individually as well. We presented to Fundy Shores specifically in, I believe, September, October, to talk to them and really kind of get them into this, and marshal support for regional initiatives.
Right. That's great, and I encourage that, and hope that we as a municipality can support that request at the Regional Service Commission as well, in terms of trying to ensure that the breadth of reach is really truly across the region.
Absolutely, that's something that we really want as well, and are building towards in all of our initiatives. But so we're very glad to know that we have your support in that endeavor. So
great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Harlan. Anyone else, Council? No? Thank you for your presentation, and we really appreciate you coming in. Our next presentation is Sunbury Shores.
Good evening, and thank you very much for the opportunity to present. I am Sarah Brinkhurst, and I'm the Executive Director, Janitor, whatever else needs doing at Sunbury Shores. I don't have a very exciting presentation again, I'm afraid, because it's a very straightforward ask. I did send around, I don't know if people have had a chance to look at a document that we put together for a meeting with government earlier this year, which is why Sunbury Shores matters. And that was an attempt to sort of outline that we don't just, we're more than just an organization that asks for money and donations and grants and things like that, that we actually are a very vibrant, active part of the economic community, and just some of the what we put back into the community. So I don't really know. I don't know. Do I want to go through that with you guys, or or not? Sorry. No. Totally up to me.
What
Okay.
you would like to present.
Yes. Sorry.
Okay.
Oh, sorry, that wasn't. Yeah.
No.
Oh, that's just coming from behind me. That's all.
Yeah, that's,
Anyway, so basically, in short, we've been running since 1964, and originally we had just a lot of local supporters who donated time and money and things like that. And obviously, over the years, that structure has changed enormously, and we've had to reinvent how we respond to community needs drastically. Like most of the other organizations in town, like the archives and whatnot, we're still reliant on donations and grants. So it's hard always to ask for money locally, because we know how many people are asking for the same pot. But essentially what we do put back is we pay, I'm just trying to find my notes here, sorry. For staff, between permanent and full-time staff, we're paying about $140,000 annually. So that's actually providing 2 full-time jobs to younger people living right in St. Andrews. So we think that's important to sort of be contributing to that. We pay over $60,000 a year to contracted instructors who we bring in to teach the courses and classes for kids and seniors and all the rest of it. So that's a fair amount of time. That's 15 to 20 people a year, and that they're mostly professional artists, so that's supplementing their income. Last year we paid $45,000 in art sales 2 artists who had exhibited with us, and there's artist fees that go along top of that, which is about $10,000 a year. And we do artist in residence every year, and we are paying them there's usually about 4, and that's about $20,000 a year that we're paying out to them. So we are putting quite a lot of money back into the community one way and another, and encouraging. So I'm really excited at the moment because we actually have non-retirement age staff, which is something I've been working towards, because it's it's actually creating 3 jobs at the moment, which is wonderful. We get 4% of our revenue from provincial government, and that went up a few years ago. So that's $17,000 a year that we get as core funding from the province, which doesn't really go very far. So we are consistently $50,000 to $60,000 short a year that we have to make up for operations. So basically paying the bills, meeting salary costs, and keeping the doors open. So we have to do that through private donations and fundraising activities and whatnot. So we're busy doing that. This ask is because recently, since COVID, we've redirected our focus more into the community and listening more to direct community needs and what people are looking for. We expanded our kids programming, so we still do the class program, which is Children Learning Art at Sunbury Shores. We send instructors into the elementary school, and they do every grade at the elementary school throughout the school year. And then for the second semester with SJDA, it'll be, I'm waiting to have it confirmed, but it's usually grades 11 and 12, up to 12 students who come down every day during that semester to do art studies with us in different media, art history, professional development, and portfolio development for those students who are interested in going on to make it professional. So we've been doing that for years now. We extended that to outreach for after-school art programs to all 9 elementary schools across Charlotte County in the last 2 years. That goes up and down a little bit with the success rate depending on what the schools are doing and what their curriculum is and things like that. But we're working with them all the time to extend that. So that includes Grand Manan, Campobello, Deer Island, and Lawrence Station, and say everywhere we can get to. We are super happy that we've been working with the town, with Mervyn from the Parks and Recreation Department, to do the seniors art programming this year, which has been hugely successful. And we're looking to see what we can find to contribute to that, to expand it and to make sure that keeps going. And we have started having conversations with the youth centre, so because that's a really important thing that we're trying to get into. So we've started talking to them about what we can do to support their programming, both at them and bringing them to us. All of which means that we've been busier than ever, and we're very limited in our space. We have our building, and that is it. And we've had a number of times where we've had kind of clashes with things slightly double booked, or we've had to say no to something because we've already got something going on. So we thought about it, and the most obvious solution, we have a beautiful deck in the back of the building that looks out over the harbour. And if any of you haven't been into Sunbury Shores to see that, if you've been to the Gables, it's right next door, so you'll know what it looks like. We do have a sort of wind-out awning, which is supposed to provide some protection, but it doesn't really do very much. So we came up with this idea to look at a retractable roof structure. So it's an aluminium frame that's attached to the building, and the roof actually can travel out or back, depending on the weather. It's fitted with gutters and things, so we don't have drips in between. So it's more sophisticated than just an awning where you always get the drips going down. We found a Canadian company that makes them in Ontario, and they gave us a pretty good deal. We applied for funding from the Windsor Foundation for $30,000, and they granted us 25 of that. So we're still about 9,000 short. We have got a couple of private donations. We're doing some more fundraising and this, that, and the other. But basically, we're coming to the town with the ask of 5 of that 9,000 to make sure that we can actually get it put up. We've got enough to basically buy it, but we need builders to install it, and an electrician and a few other things to make sure that it's installed properly and things. The advantage of that is it then protects most of our back deck from rain and wind, because there's some side panels that we can put up as well, and sun if it's too hot, because we do get a lot of sun south facing there. That means particularly, I mean, we do classes with like the Dragonfly Autism group and things, and they come through the summer, and we had chair yoga out there all summer this year, but on the really hot days they have to come inside because it's just too much. And it just opens it up to all those kind of possibilities with all those local community groups who come and use us for various things. So it basically is an outdoor classroom that we're looking at it as. Make a huge difference for us. Also for events, we regular supporters of Paddlefest and things like that. So again, to be able to have a kind of sheltered out, semi-outdoor space would be wonderful to be able to extend for that kind of thing, indulge, all of those. So that's basically what we're looking for. I can show you a really exciting picture of sort of what it would like. This was drawn by the company. That's without the roof. And then we have with the roof. So yeah, one up from last year. At least I have some pictures. But so essentially that's what we're looking for. It's a sort of, again, it's a kind of infrastructure thing that we just felt was the sort of appropriate ask from the town, maybe because we say we look after our own building generally, but we need some help occasionally. All the educational stuff and things like that, there's other foundations that give us money for those kind of things. But this is a operational kind of hard ask for anything like that. So we're hoping the town will look favorably. So any questions about anything?
Council, any questions? Councillor Harland?
Thank you. Thank you for your presentation. I don't really have a question per se, just a comment, which is the importance of the shift. Well, I say shift, but the importance of Sunbury Shores focusing on community needs. And, you talk about post-COVID and sort of what we learned from some of the things around COVID, our experience with COVID, and the fact that you are now looking at opportunities to have functional outdoor space is critical. The fact that you're engaging with our youth center and with Mervyn in terms of the wonderful programs that he has been starting, and the school programs that you have been doing are just marvelous in terms of the opportunities that our residents have, and our youth in particular have, at experiencing art.
Yeah.
In many forms.
There's so many studies now about how therapeutic it is just to get engaged with creating something. It doesn't have to be any kind of masterpiece. It's just using your hands to create.
That's right.
And Sunbury Shores has been a lot of things over the years, and over the last, say, 2 or 3 years, it's really become clearer and clearer what we need to be for our community. We still need to do some of the kind of more high-level courses and things like that we charge for, because that helps pay for our costs and things, and there is a demand for that, for artists, for professional development. We're bringing in instructors with standards higher than anywhere else in New Brunswick, basically. So we have people traveling from around the province and beyond to attend those. But our core mandate is providing those opportunities for our community, and we include, Charlotte County as being a kind of greater part of that. It's really important for what we are, and as I say, in order to have the extra space to be able to just fit more people in, it would be wonderful. Yes.
Well, and the opportunity to combine exposure to art, but in an outdoor, sheltered outdoor setting.
Yeah.
I mean, to me, that's
There's
marvelous.
there's a lot of opportunities that
Yeah.
opens up, yeah.
That's
And
great.
especially for people who find indoor environments challenging and
Yep.
things. It's, we have ramps now for the doors and things to get in and out, so we had Ability New Brunswick came and did an assessment earlier this year and gave us some advice on a few other things that we could do to improve access for various spaces. So
Good.
we're working on those things as well.
Great.
So,
Thank
yeah.
you for your presentation.
Okay, thank you. Yep.
Thank you. Anybody else? Mr. Spear?
Yeah, I just want to remind the groups that council won't debate this until probably late January or something, so it'll be a couple of months before they've decided how to spread out the things, just so, you know, it may take a few weeks before you hear back from us.
Thank you, Mr. Spear. Anyone else? Thank you, Sunbury Shores, for coming. I know you do a great job culturally and artistically. I've seen it all my whole life, so it's wonderful to know that you're carrying on. So thank you for coming out tonight. All right, moving right along, we have the 2026 budget presentation. Mr. Spear? You're not staying for that,
I stayed for you.
guys?
I stayed for your guys. Come on. No, I'm just kidding. You go ahead.
Thank you for coming. If you want,
just teasing.
we'll
You can
take a
run
few
if you like
minutes,
to.
and if you want to leave, that's fine. Welcome, Alex, by the way. I just saw you.
Ouch. That's right. You've been through enough.
All right. Now, Mr. Spear, please.
Well, thank you, Your Worship and Council. I just want to do one final presentation for the 2026 budget. We have been doing this completely out in the open and being transparent about it, having our meetings online or certainly in person over the last several weeks. And is this working?
Yep.
Okay. You sure? What? Well-
I touched something else. Sorry, try not.
There we go. Oh, I'm fancy. So we started the budget internally with the August 2025, or met with staff to start putting together. It's a fairly intense procedure for staff as they have to kind of look out their needs for the next year as well as capital. Then I was a little late this year because we were in between clerks. So it was October 14th, which is about a month later before we presented for the first time to council. Then the October the 8th, the assessment base was released by the government of New Brunswick, which gives us, I think it's 45 days to have the budget submitted. And then we met a few times over in November to talk more about the budget as we presented the various components, including capital and operations, for council's input and deliberation. So for the highlights for this year, the new government put a freeze on assessments for this current year to help with housing and inflationary measures. And so they announced that months ago, so it was no surprise, but we knew that it was going to have an effect on all the municipalities who do like that growth. What they did do, though, was any new construction, they did allow for growth, but so new construction could be a new building or a new fence or upgrades to an existing property. But our overall growth was only 1.7%, and we've had double-digit growth, usually routinely over the last several years, anywhere from 8 to 12%. So I won't say it was a shock, but it was a number lower than what we're normally used to. All new construction, and so there's no reassessments of property. So within the town, the new town, we have two taxing authorities. At the old municipal boundaries is still one taxing unit, and they combine Bayside and Shamcook for the other taxing unit. So our tax rates in Bayside and Shamcook went up to 236 million, and then to St. Andrews only up to 502 million for about $740 million. worth of combined assessment. That includes the ratio which we talk about, the non-resident ratio, where non-resident properties are taxed at a higher rate than residential properties. The growth is a mixture between 1% and 2%. And for the total part of the assessment, as this comes into some of our calculations on how to share costs, is about 32% or 1/3 was to Bayside and Shamcook, and about 2/3 of the assessment base comes out of the old St. Andrews. So in the past, council approved annual property tax growth of 5%. So if that means all new property taxes, if it came through reassessments, great. We've actually had a history of reducing rates in the last few years. Or occasionally we have to raise the tax rate to meet that 5%. But in last year's budget, we only assumed 3%, which did match new construction. But for 2026, at the suggestion of staff, and you agreed that we froze the mill rates and budgets were adjusted accordingly, that we had, kind of maintained flat growth throughout our operations in order so people, year-over-year tax bills should stay the same. So the 2025 mill rate for Bayside and Shamcook was about 54 cents. It was $1.05 for St. Andrews. When you add in the 41.5 cents, it's the same as last year. So combined, Bayside and Shamcook will pay about 95.10, and the town of St. Andrews, the tax zone of St. Andrews will pay $1.0506. So it's only an overall decrease of 1%. Actually, it's about 0.5%. The revenue for this year, just a couple of notes, is they increased the provincial funding grant, which we should call equalization payments, by 6% to $90,000. However, we've been advised that equalization is an averaging of the last 4 years, and as we move forward, our share will probably start to decrease. And by the end of year 4, 2029, we may not have any equalization. That can change year after year, but it's really based on the needs of the municipality. And under their formula, St. Andrews isn't considered in need of equalization. Something else, it's not all bad news along that front. We'll get in that in a little bit. But one thing to be aware of, too, in the 2025 budget, we had a $204,000 second-year surplus that doesn't get carried over. So we had a surplus of $200,000 in 2023 that, because we have to run balanced budgets, we had to add it as revenue. So it came in the current tax year we're in, but it doesn't get carried forward. So we had to work around that adjustment, but I had advised the public and council that was coming even at last year's presentation. So the operating expenses, there's a $3,000 difference on a $7 million budget, so that's pretty good. General government is down by about 8.4%. Sorry, I'm gonna hit myself behind here. Primarily because of reduced council members, which he approved earlier this fall, saves about $40,000. And then we reduced the town hall repairs. We had a one-time expense, or a higher than usual expense, in 2025, our current year, so we just reduced it to normal repairs and maintenance moving forward. Within the wellness center, the medical center, the building we're in, we're able to reduce our recruitment and supply expenses. So the overall, that department is actually down 18% in expenses as presented to you. The recreation budget is up 9% as council's investing in special events to spur community spirit and economic development, including trying to do monthly socials at Bayside Hall's a big one, but there's also a couple of events that are being added on, including Pirate Fest and Trail Fest, to expand those a bit more this year. And then also become a partner with the Winter Warmer Festival in January, which is our low time, to try to get those that don't play hockey or curling out and to do other activities. Whoop, sorry. Getting ahead of myself here. The protective services, which is the combination of the police and fire department. So is up 5%. Now, the reason it's up 5% is that as a direct contract with Ottawa, we're billed on the number of members we have, and we were down a little bit in the number of members for 2024 and 2025. So the vacancies have been getting filled, and so we had to increase the budget there to show that. So that's about the operating budget at a quick glance. In general capital, we have a total investments of $4.3 million is our tentative budget for next year. Wharf repairs is $1 million, and as we've announced a couple of times, we have an engineering study going on right now that will really determine that. They're out last week, and we'll get a better idea once that report comes in early next month. So it could be a little bit more, it could be a little bit less. That'll be up to council how you want to proceed with that, but we'll know a lot more later in the winter. We need a new Zamboni. Our Alan Flewelling, our in-house mechanic, has been keeping that together with bubble gum and prayers, so it'll have to get through this winter as it's, even if approved, because it's got a huge, it's a huge delay in ordering. It takes 8 to 12 months to bring one of these in, so we'll have to get through one more season. We had talked about having an electrical version. Right now, we're proposing to stick with the propane version of it, just because of the price difference and where we try to extend it 20 years. We won't necessarily go out and buy it once approved tomorrow, but maybe we'll do one last ask of council before we place the order in January to get it moving. Just a concern. The sidewalk machine to replace our holder, which is just at the end of its life, and we've had to do some fairly big refurbishments on that twice in the last 5 years, and that machine, again, will have to be used this winter regardless, like everything else. That machine's 8 or 10 months to have that sidewalk machine brought in. We're still talking about upgrading the arena washrooms, especially last year, if you remember, we ran into an issue where we had a water leak through the floor and we had to tear out a whole bunch of stuff. So it's usable, but it could be upgraded. As far as we can tell, it's the original fixtures from 1970, I think it is, it was built, so it'd be time to refresh that. And the Visitor Information Center, I guess as we discussed, is going to potentially move. That space has been repurposed right now for the Senior Resource Center, but it could still end up at the arena. We're not sure, it's just one of locations. But whether or not we have various events besides the winter events there, and it's in dire needs of a cleaning up. Then there's still $200,000 in for housing. That's more of a placement that if something comes up, or we had a meeting earlier today to try to continue that project at beside the New Brunswick Community College. So it's still on the radar, although it's moving a lot slower than I ever hoped. Under transportation, and what I will say, everything in the first screen, no, that's not true. Most of this stuff is going to be paid for just by the St. Andrews tax ward. The previous screen, the sidewalk machine would be paid within the budgets or borrowing of the St. Andrews tax ward, but everything else is a shared expense, as we say, that we contributed contributions from both tax units, Bayside and Shamrock and St. Andrews. The Legion parking lot, we've taken possession. We think we can get near 50 spaces out of that, but that involves filling in the ditches and paving. So there's a budget between, we'll say $450,000 and $500,000. That's the last engineer's estimate on it, what we see there. Is coming out of the TALB funding, so there's no taxpayer involvement in that. But we'll have to see how that goes. We're hoping it comes in a lot less, but we won't know till that gets issued. Crestwood Lane, as you come in on Mowat Drive, the paving needs to be completely removed and then added back in. The Prince of Wales paving is just over where the work was done up by the Algonquin earlier this year. And then on Water Street, we're talking about replacing there's an asphalt sidewalk from Princess Royal to Patrick that we'd like to replace with cement like we did at Frederick Street this current year. We find the asphalt twists and turns, especially because it's all one continuous piece, whereas if you get concrete in, you have a problem somewhere. It just affects one or two panels, not the whole, not meters and meters of sidewalk. Then one other project that we approved a couple of years ago to do some work on Bayview Drive to widen it and ditch it and do some work. And the grant was for $835,000. Our hope is we're just going to spend whatever it takes to get to $835,000. We'll do what it takes. So we'll work on that. That is fully funded by DTI. Our only contribution is staff time and arranging engineering and stuff. Even the design costs, we do arrange it, but again, it's all included in that amount of money. So that's just an in and out type of scenario. Funding for the capital projects this year is about $1.1 million from tax revenue. Government grants, which the big one would be the wharf project, how it proceeds, is about $1,041,000. Borrowing, I'm estimating $400,000 in borrowing this year. Capital reserves, $325,000, and as before mentioned, $468,000 from the Tourism Development Fund. Our general debt analysis continues to be fairly strong as it keeps way, it starts to border 10% in 5 years, which is kind of the high end of where the province likes to see you. But under regulation, we can actually borrow up to 20%. When I mean 20%, that's our debt payment ratio. So debt repayments can be 20% of our total budget. That's considered really high. One thing that's built into there that we don't show tonight, that whoever gets a copy of our budget when it's released in the next few days, if it's approved tonight, is the Shamcook Dam needs to have major work done on it, which is a little bit further in the future. And so that shows up there and explains kind of that high spike, as well as the wharf project. The utility operating budget is $1.4 million. We've seen growth of about 12% in user fees, but that's more from consumption. That's not that we're going to ask for 12% growth in. Sorry, let me phrase that. It's from consumption and fees from people using it. We're not looking to increase the actual fees by 12%. That within the bylaw right now, you allow a 2% growth year over, or 2% increase year over year for our water customers, and we plan on staying within that for 2026. Expenses had a decrease of 6%, partially because of lower debt payments. That a lot of the projects came in under budget over the last few years, so the borrowing you had to do came in under, and so it's meant lower debt payments as an overall cost towards our budget. Big projects this year: Champlain Avenue replacing the water line. That's from the corner of Cemetery towards Kira, the dead end. And so that's 1 year. We're hoping that'll be done in the spring. Then upgrades to the wastewater treatment plant are $226,000. A lot of that was on the blowers. It's getting to the end of their useful life. And then upgrades to the water treatment plant was $110,000. Even with this work, our debt ratio there's a bit higher at around 30% over the next 5 years. That includes some fairly aggressive projects over the next 5 years that future councils will have to decide on. But for the utility, it can go up to 50% of your budget because it's so capital intensive, and the Department of Environment and Local Government isn't that affected by it or that concerned. All they say is if your users can afford the fees that you need to charge in order to do it, then you're free to proceed. But as we've seen, we're happy with the work that council has invested in that project over the last decade. And there's some big projects that we've undertaken, and we hope there's some more funding available that hasn't been tightly worked into here to help either do more or cost less for the stuff that we're planning on doing, and see where that proceeds from there. So moving forward, it's pretty simple. We're asking you tonight to approve the 4 budgets, which is general operating and general capital, and utility operating and utility capital. And then as staff, we'll always continue to look for more sources of funding. And some of them just pop up out of nowhere, to be honest, and others are routine places we throw money at. One thing I didn't have in there, which I should have put in, was that one of the sources of funding that have come out of the government this year, when we talked about local government reform, was in 2020, 6, the town of St. Andrews is getting, I think, $399,000 of grants towards capital renewal. So not towards new assets, just towards refurbishing what we have. I think infrastructure deficit is a word we're all used to now. It's right across the country. It's been a word. Basically, all levels of government have underfunded, streets and pipes in the ground and buildings and bridges and all that stuff. And so the government's trying to assist by giving dedicated funding to municipalities. And the town's portion of that actually over the 5 years is about 1.6 million, if I remember top of my head. And so that's significant, and that'll help go, and it grows significantly in the next few years. So it'll be a big help to play catch up on a lot of this stuff as we try to move forward. So, Merry Christmas, I guess, but are there any questions now, or we can wait until we get into the discussion in a little bit on the budget that has to be approved?
Council, what's your preference? Now or later?
I hear later, so we'll come back to
Okay.
it in a few minutes.
Thank you very much, Mr. Spear, for a great presentation. And now we move right along with the approval of the minutes. So, the first minutes to be approved are the minutes of the 25/11/17 public hearing of objections on Monday, November the 17th, 2025, at 6 p.m. So the recommended motion is that the minutes of these 25/11/17 public hearing of objections on Monday, November 17th, 2025, at 6 p.m. be adopted. I need a mover and a seconder first. Councillor Heenan, Councillor Gumichel. Any further discussion or omissions? Not seeing any, we'll call for the question. All those in favor of accepting these minutes, say aye. Aye. Contrary minded? Carried. Oh, you had a,
I think I need to abstain. I wasn't here for that meeting.
if you abstain, it means you have a yes vote anyway, right?
Yeah.
So, but it's carried. The second set is the minutes of 25/11/17 public hearing of objections on Monday, November the 17th, 2025, at 6:15 p.m. And the recommended motion is that the minutes of the 25/11/17 public hearing of objections on Monday, November the 17th, 2025, at 6:15 be adopted. Mover? Councillor Bennett, seconder? Councillor Gumichel, thank you. Any further discussion, omissions? Not seeing any, we'll go for the question. All those in favor of accepting these minutes, say aye. Aye. Contrary minded? Carried. And the last set is the minutes of the 25/11/17 regular council meeting of Monday, November the 17th, 2025 at 6:30 p.m. And the recommended motion is this, that the minutes of the 25/11/03 regular council meeting on Monday, November the 17th, 2025 at 6:30 p.m. be adopted. Mover, please. Councillor Gumichel, seconder, Councillor Heenan. Any further discussion, errors, or omissions? Not seeing any, go for the vote. All those in favor of accepting these minutes, say aye. Aye. Contrary minded? Carried. All right. That's done. All right. So, communications, do we have any letters or anything? Mr. Spear, Mr. McKinnon? Okay. Staff reports, Mr. Spear?
Thank you, Worship. Council, with the Christmas season upon us, there are many activities planned over the next few weeks. It has been a busy year with many initiatives undertaken and completed, with others still in process. Or on page 97 for anyone looking. Once again, I wish to
Trying
thank
find it.
you for the opportunity to share the ongoing operations and initiatives of the town of St. Andrews. Council, before you tonight is the 2026 budget for final approval with 2027 to 2030 projections based on what we know now. The current budget is proposing to hold the mill rate at $1.506 for the St. Andrews unit and $53.95 for Bayside and Shamcook, which, as I explained, was $95.10, including the DTI transportation fee. With the assessment frozen province-wide for the 2026 tax bills, a vast majority of residents should not see a property tax increase. To assist with the struggles that existing capital refurbishments are putting on municipalities, the Government of New Brunswick has created a capital renewal fund to go towards current assets. Over the next 4 years, we're eligible for around $1.65 million, which I propose we allocate to recreation facilities, roads, and in-ground infrastructure. Tonight, there is a plan before you to approve that apportions the grants over the next 4 years. Under the program conditions, Council can update the plan in the future to address new priorities. However, it is fair to say 2026 is somewhat confirmed if approved tonight. Next Monday night, December the 8th at 6 o'clock, the planners will be presenting the draft zoning bylaw to Council and the public. Right, Alex? She says, first time I've heard of it? No. This is the first time it'll be provided, and copies will be made available at Town Hall and online. Many citizens are more interested in this document as it has the detail that the municipal plan does not provide. Then over the winter, we will have a series of public consultation meetings where people can discuss concerns and ask questions to either document. In addition, the planners hope to prepare a longer form video that we can post, which gets into each zone in depth, allowing everyone to better understand the conditions of each zone. We also heard the final presentation from 2 organizations looking for assistance grants greater than $3,000. Earlier in the new year, we'll bring back the larger request for consideration so they can prepare for the 2026 programs. Christmas is coming and the CAO is getting fat. Last Friday, the downtown tree lighting kicked off with Deputy Mayor Akagi lighting the lobster trap tree. And I'll say, I think it was the biggest crowd I've ever seen down there. It was like shoulder to shoulder people for any who attended. I wish to acknowledge Kevin Simmons and the BIA for organizing the sale of the buoys for the food bank and volunteering to put up the tree. I also wish to recognize the Public Works crew for all their work, especially in adding to the display again this year. It takes just about the whole crew 3 to 4 days to set them all up. Finally, I wish to thank Mervyn and the Christmas Committee for all their work in organizing the celebration and seeing to its completion. Be sure to look for their posters or look up christmasbythesea.ca to keep track of the events, and I'm sure we get a link on our website. Last week, Fundy Engineering was down to do the visual inspection of the wharf, including bringing in a dive team. They will compile the information, analyze it, and provide recommendations to Council, likely in late January. This will help make decisions on the next phase of the wharf refurbishment. Also last week, those around Shamcook Lake may have noticed a dive team working at both ends. Contracted by the Department of Environment and Local Government, Gemtech Engineering is conducting a bathymetric survey over multiple years to help better understand the conditions that they should put on the use of the watershed, and specifically how the conditions that should be placed for when it is used as potable water. We recently received a report from CBCL on the land around the NBCC campus in St. Andrews that we hope to develop into apartments in the future. We are having a meeting tomorrow, actually it was today, with a consultant and Housing Hub to go over the results and to determine next steps. I'll provide the report to Council after that so I can provide a bit of context on the highly technical report. For the rest of the month, Council will meet next week and have a regular meeting on the 15th. That should be it for this year. We won't get together again until the second Monday in January when we will have our staff-led meeting again. Services. November has turned into a very busy month for Public Works. In addition to the aforementioned Christmas decorations, they also put up and pulled down the Remembrance Day veteran banners, as well as bringing in the leaf bags and preparing the ice surface at the curling rink. We also sent 3 members for training in water distribution systems as required by the Environment Department. I wish to publicly thank the City of St. John who got us out of a jam. Partway through the initial installation of the curling ice, we discovered there's a leak from the loss of brine that keeps the floor cold. Unfortunately, it was not bubbling up, so we had no idea where to find it, and it looked like we might have to remove the floor. Fortunately, a supplier put us in touch with a special team from the city who came down and, using special equipment and their expertise, were able to locate the leak quickly. Our staff were then able to open the spot, repair the pipe, fill it in, and restart the ice installation. I also need to thank Vern Lister for his annual support in helping to put in the ice in the curling club. A couple of months ago, I reported that the water level at the lake was quite far down because of the summer drought. I am happy to report that it has since come up 8.5 inches, and with the rain we received last week, and I guess even today, likely more. We have received a few complaints about dirty water at homes. Once reported, we'd go to the neighborhoods and check with others. If they aren't facing the same issue, the main water supply is fine. There could be a couple of causes of the dirty water. A hot water tank that needs to be flushed. It is recommended to flush a tank twice a year, but most of us never do it. And to keep the system clean, we flush the system twice a year by opening up hydrants throughout town. We always announce this too. This can cause particulates to break off in the system. As a user, if you run your cold water for 10 minutes in the tub or outside faucet, that should clear up. As a reminder, we're continuously testing our supply, including third-party lab submissions, as part of heavy regulation around water utilities. The Recreation Department continues to provide opportunities to beat the winter blues. Glow skating has started again with music and black lights in a party atmosphere. Held monthly over the winter, the next one is scheduled for December the 19th. The Youth Center have taken over showing monthly movies at the arena over the winter and into spring. Look for posters and postings on social media for show times and titles. At Bayside Hall, they are hosting afternoon socials on the second Tuesday of every month, which is drawing around 60 people. The annual Ross Memorial Museum open house is taking again a place later this week. Put on by volunteers with the assistance of our staff, this tradition restarted last year after being discontinued during the pandemic. It is open Thursday from 1 to 5 and Friday through Sunday from 1 to 8. In the library report, there are a few items worth mentioning. They are offering creative work, a monthly opportunity for adults to go in and be provided materials to make a personal art piece. In November, they created a spoon pendant, and in December, it'll be a paper wreath. The library is also distributing radon kits for those that missed last year's program through Town Hall. There is a limited supply, so if interested, you should pop in soon. In December, the public libraries across the province are offering passes to the Musée Acadien at the University de Moncton. Like other programs, I assume it is one per library card. The system also has a new app, BiblioNB, that allows you to download an audiobook, ebook, or reserve a traditional paperback. As a reminder, our library is open Tuesday through Saturday, including Tuesday evenings for your convenience. In conclusion, we appreciate the feedback we get from our citizens and remind everyone to keep up the involvement as we work through the planning documents, recreation master plans, and institute the budget. On behalf of staff and myself, I wish to thank the Deputy Mayor and Council for your continued support and to wish all our citizens and partners a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. Please keep safe and remember to relax during this time of year. Respectfully submitted, Chris Spear, CAO.
Thank you, Mr. Spear, for that report. So now we will accept the staff reports, so that council accepts all the staff reports and financial reports as presented. Mover? Councillor Heenan, seconder. Councillor Harlan. Any addition to what was written? Questions? Yes, Councillor Weir?
Councillor Ware, don't forget your
Your
microphone.
microphone, please.
Yeah, under protective services, bylaw officer wages and benefits, we may have covered this. Our budget was 36.6, and our year-to-date, our year-to-date actual is 36.6. Budget's 55.6, but in looking at the budget documents over the weekend, I come up with different numbers. So was there reallocation of how the budget was presented in here? And
I think there might have been just, they didn't transfer in November, the year-to-date stuff all the way, because I saw that too and just figured that's what it was. Part of it too could have been we had planned on hiring somebody internally, getting a contract for bylaw enforcement, the young fellow that walked up and down the streets, but instead we hired it internally, so the contract was reduced, but the wages went up.
okay, I just had a problem following it.
Yep.
So,
That answer your question, Councillor Weir?
yes,
Thank you, Mr. Spear. Any others? Councillor Harland?
I don't have a question. I just have a comment, which is, as I read the staff reports, for a municipality our size, our staff do an incredible job in every department. I'm just quite astounded each month when I read the reports, but especially at this particular time of the year when there is so much going on. I look at what the Public Works has done in terms of turning St. Andrews into such a magical community. I know a lot of that was the vision of Terry Acton, and I really appreciate the fact that he put so much energy into creating new opportunities for the town, particularly around the Christmas season. So I just can't express enough gratitude to our staff. I think they are phenomenal. So thank you.
I'll pass that along, thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Harlan, and that's true. We do have the best staff. All right. Now we are on to, oh no, we didn't vote. All those in favor for accepting the report, say aye. Aye. Contrary minded? Carried. So now we are on to the introduction, consideration, and passing of bylaws and motions. And the very first one is Finance and Administration Committee, and that is Councillor Heenan. Please take it away.
Thank you, Your Worship, Council, and public. I'll try to get all of these numbers in the correct order. It is reference number FA 251227, approval of the 2026 operating and utility fund budgets. The budget process started in September for staff with the initial presentation to council in October. After 7 meetings and debate among council, we are ready to approve the 2026 budgets. Despite the assessment freeze, council approved a lower operating budget so the tax rates can stay the same as they were in 2025. And motion number 1 before us is that the Council of the Town of St. Andrews approves the 2026 general operating and general capital budget for the Town of St. Andrews, as well as the projections for the same of 2027 to 2030 be approved. And that the 2026 general operating fund budget totals $7,946,481, including a tax warrant of $6,555,098, on a mill rate of 1.0506 for each 100 of assessment for St. Andrews, and a mill rate of 0.5395 for each $100 assessment for Bayside and Shamcook. Council orders and directs the levying by the Minister of Local Government of the said amount of real property liable to taxation under the Assessment Act within the Town of St. Andrews. and that the general capital project of 2026 budget be funded by $1,104,192 from the general operating fund, $400,000 from long-term borrowing, $700,000 from government grants, $165,000 from Canada Community Building Fund, $468,000 from the Tourism Development Fund, $50,000 from donations, $835,000 from the Provincial Municipal Highway Partnership, $175,710 from capital renewal funding, and $368,498 from the General Capital Reserve Fund. Your Worship, I so move.
Thank you, Councillor Heenan. Seconder? Councillor, Deputy Mayor Neal. Any further discussion, Council? Councillor Weir?
Why'd you look at me?
Well, because I knew your hand was going to go.
Okay, well, I guess I've beat around the bush a bit on this over the last couple months, so I'm just going to out and out say some things, and I hope no one holds it against me. There were two phrases that were never used during the budget process: cost of living increases and affordability. Two most common phrases used in governmental organizations across Canada and in many businesses also. I think it's very important for us to constantly be thinking of those two concepts. All the economic think tanks in Canada are talking about it. It's just the buzzword right now. The other thing was the increase in debt. Again, perhaps not all the governments, particularly the federal, is not talking about decreasing debt, but all the economic think tanks, all the people in the know, or supposedly in the know, on the economy where it stands today and where it's going tomorrow, are talking about decreasing debt. And there's never a day that I go through that I don't read an article by some noted writer telling young people, middle-aged people, and even some of us old people how to reduce and eliminate debt. And yet, as a town, we are continuing to increase debt. And it bothers me because of what we're putting on the shoulders of the citizens of tomorrow. You know, not going to affect me. I can go out and borrow $1 million tomorrow. I'm not going to live long enough to worry about it. So that bothers me. We had the objective to keep the tax rates the same as what went through last year, but we didn't go through the process of allocating costs to departments and to wards. When Mr. Fitzpatrick was here as the facilitator, he set up the budget. Heaven forbid how he come up with it. I don't know. Don't know whether he does himself, but so we had that for 2023, 2024, still getting our feet wet, so we use that as a guideline to put our budget in place. 2025, we did attempt to get into it and to develop the model that is set out in the Local Governance Act. We didn't get into it that deep. We did find later that we had made mistakes in percentages and that type of thing. So, and then again this year we come along and say, well, we're going to leave the the rate the same, so we again did not go into the model and start developing it. So here we are, year 4, going into year 4, we still haven't got this financial model as was envisioned with municipal reform, that was envisioned in the Local Governance Act. And I'm just wondering what's going to happen next year. We're going to, again, slide by it somehow and still never get the model in place. And that bothers me from a financial point of view. Unanswered. The last draft, the one I worked on the weekend, there was changes of $300,000 to $400,000 in because of the wharf project and various other small things. The one we were presented with tonight had some more changes on it. I can't remember what the exact amounts were, but anyway, doesn't matter, there were changes. And it makes me think, well, if we went at it again for another week, would we come up with another budget with a few more changes in it? Now, we get the same result because we want the same tax rate, but we would have to cut in some place and add on in another place, and we still wouldn't have a financial model that was as accurate as perhaps it should be. And I'll use the word perhaps it should be. In my mind, it should be. Other people may think not. I have a couple other questions here that are to do with specific departments. One was the Wellness Center. I noticed that the agreement, contract, whatever it is, the verbal contract, has been amended to remove certain expenses, and it appears add a COLA clause. Now, the COLA clause was in there last year in the budget, but it wasn't in the actuals. And this is why I thought it was almost mandatory for a municipality to have a contract for something like that. It just is not good business practice to operate on verbal contracts. And this is a business. It's a very important business. It's the business that runs our daily lives as far as the services we receive from the municipality. We're continuing to pay retention fees for the physicians. I asked the question to which ones. I couldn't get an answer as to which ones were getting what. I also asked the question, is there a sunset clause on the fee? And does this agreement go on in perpetuity? You know, these are very valid questions on a contract. Does the contract ever come to an end, or does it just go on forever? And there are questions that automatically pop to my mind, maybe not to everybody's, but things that, as a counselor, I feel I should know for my constituents, and I should have a right to know. There's one final thing here that I will leave until the end of the meeting. Those are my comments. Those are some general comments that just came to mind as I was going through it. I went through the budget 3 or 4 times, and I just sit down and I started writing, so that I could probably come up with more things And maybe some of them are big issues to me and not to others, but to me, there should be a very detailed working paper file on the budget. Should be subject to some type of a detailed file review by people that did it, or somehow, I realize there's only a couple people in the office, but I just get uncomfortable every time we come back with a budget. There's changes because some errors were found. And the one I looked at over the weekend, there was a $300,000 error that was going to be taken out of the capital reserve to make the budget balance. Well, that's a lot of money. $300,000 suddenly in expenses that weren't budgeted. So those types of things make red lights come on when I'm looking at something. That's all I'll say. Like I say, I know some of you will disagree vehemently with me, but I've been doing forecasts, which is the same thing as a budget, my entire life, and presenting it to public companies and everything. And if I presented something like this, I think they'd kick me out of the room. So anyway, that's just point blank honest. And I'll leave it at that.
Thank you for your comments, Councilor Weir. Mr. Spear?
Thank you, Worship. I guess there's just a couple of things I'd like to respond, because some of it is questioning my credibility to a little bit of an extent. I mean, I've been doing this for a long, long time, and, there's sometimes ups and downs, but I've been in the public sector too, and my budget's more accurate than they would ever get in the public sector, honestly. Yeah, there's things up and down. Part of the problem is I'm about the only one that understands it within the town, because it's complicated with all the funding formulas and stuff, and, that error has been since draft one, so councillors didn't find it either. I didn't expect them to, because it's complicated. I get it. So I was doing the last quality check like you went through over the week, just crossing all the T's and I's. I found that. The debt thing, I understand where you're coming from, but the problem with the town and governments in general is we've been way behind, because no one was setting up reserve funds or trying to replace capital assets for years and years. And so the town was put in a position on what to do moving forward. And we've been fairly proactive in replacing assets that need to be. We can always look at cuts, but I guess it's what are we going to cut? Because a lot of our work is refurbishments and maintaining the service levels we have now, which they talk about. And so if we're going to, want to not do borrowing, then there's some stuff that has to be removed from the budget. It's just simple as that. I'm not saying it's the right thing or wrong thing. Other municipalities have made these hard cuts and lived with it. It's reality. But that's always been our thing. We've been keeping it that 10% level, which is good. We borrowed a lot in the last pre-pandemic because, as you know, the interest rates are so low that, our first 2 or 3 years of borrowing was at rates of less than 2%. So now is the time to get the work done if you had to borrow to do things like fire trucks and dump trucks for snow removal and street repairs, and the list goes on and on. And so I guess I won't apologize for that, because I've always been setting forth to the council, here's what it's going to do for you long term, so you're aware, especially around the wharf project, which, was going to take us over 10%, closer to 15 if we had gone, ended up with a $7 million project that was forecast a year ago. And so it really at the end of it is just for the services. The only other thing is about the allocations. Staff made an attempt to bring it to you 2 or 3 times, once in the spring and again during budget time. I'm happy to talk about it, but we're not getting much feedback when we bring it to the council table, honestly. And if Councillor Weir and somebody else wants to sit down and work out something more one-on-one instead of around here to come up with something in the future, I'm happy to. But it's, it's been discussed. I've tried my darndest to do it, honestly, and I need a little bit of feedback to what direction we want to go. I mean, we did in-depth as far as allocating wages and stuff, and I'm not sure, and I'm happy to sit down with anybody and go through all of that if required, but it's just going to require some people to sit down and work out something a lot more in depth moving forward. I mean, I'd love to have a policy so we don't have to have this discussion every year bluntly. Like the province worked out a 5-year funding formula, if we could work out a cost allocation between the taxes units, so it's just said and done, then it makes council's job easy and the staff's job easy. So, but we can still do that moving forward. Anyway, I just thank you for this opportunity to reply on a couple of things.
Thank you, Mr. Spear. Councillor Heenan.
Yes, Your Worship. I have a few things to say about the budget. The first one is, I find that a budget's always a living document. So I understand that mistakes can be made, but a budget is a living document, which means that it has to be able to change in order to accommodate the needs of a particular town. We, as a council, and I've said this before, we're filling cupboards right now that are empty. And that explains to me a lot of why we are taking on a slight amount of debt. I totally agree with the fact that old people, young people, it's all told on them that they should reduce their debts. Exactly. So in that respect, keeping the tax rate the same, I believe is one of the most important things that we as a council can do for a town, is being able that people can do their own budgeting and not have to move out of their homes. I believe that that is the number one priority. We get tons of feedback from small, minor things that happen within the town, major feedback. I've not gotten one letter from anyone, no one, on the budget, not one. And I'm sure there's people out there that are far more educated and far more keen on the ways of a budget. So I would never profess ever to be able to figure out the total occurrings in a budget. So I have not, personally, there's mud on a street, I get 4 calls, but there's nobody calls me ever about the budget. Not one person, nowhere. But you put a mud pile on a street, and I got 4 people calling me. So I look at it as a living document that I think it breathes. It takes on its own life. I have worked in both provincial, private, and university backgrounds, and all the budgets I've been responsible for have all been a living and breathing document. As far as, I'm going to wade in on the health center, I take very big exception to the fact that it is even questioned, because in today's market and day and age, we need health services. So I will fight tooth and nail to make sure that our health services in the town of St. Andrews remain strong and committed. So those are my thoughts. Mr. Spear, Your Worship, and Council. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Heenan. Councillor, can I go to Harlan first and then back to you? Because they need a chance to speak first. So Councillor Harlan.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Mr. Spear, I'm wondering, in your discussions with other municipalities, have any of the other municipalities been able to develop a allocation model?
Most don't even attempt it,
No.
to be honest. I mean, the clerk and I were going through, and it's all over the place. Some are closer to the tax rates than we are, than the dime. Others have wider. It just depends with the council and the staff of the particular municipality. There's been no guidance, which would have been really nice from the minister or the department,
Right.
about at least a formulary that says, well, here's how you should do it. Not
Right.
generalities like they're doing right now.
And I think it is important to underscore for the public's information that we have had a number of discussions around the allocation model, and you have brought that forward to us, and I appreciate that. And my second question was in terms of the debt. I struggle. I mean, this is not my field, so I'm looking to the expertise to help guide me in terms of my decisions. Are you comfortable with where we're sitting in terms of our debt?
I'd say I'm comfortable. Just remember that every time we go for more debt, we have to present projections and results to the Municipal Capital Borrowing Board. So they're comfortable, or they'd give a big hard no. What's one strength in St. Andrews is that you might have, and I'm going to pick on Beldoon, which had the NB Power plant that closed overnight. And so their tax base just collapsed, which is horrifically unfortunate, and it created a lot of struggles up there. St. Andrews isn't in quite that predicament. That we're even though we have some key properties here, and you know, Algonquin as a key one, that isn't such a big part of our overall assessment base that if it, whatever reason, if it closed down tomorrow, that it's going to, you know, make us have to make very, very hard decisions. We may have to make some decisions, but it's not like we could lose 20 or 30% of our assessment base overnight or anything. So from a risk perspective, there's less chance of that. What's worked out well too is, you know, for homeowners, we have to renew mortgages every 5 years. And so you don't know. And so the pandemic showed that, right? Like I said, we were all at 3 and 4% or better mortgage rates, and all of a sudden it doubled to 7 or 8% just because the economy crashed. At least in municipalities, we're in the bond market through the province, and they extend those bonds 15 to 20 years. So we might have to renewal for additional 5 years in the future. And so that lowers the risk of that exposure, of a time exposure, or that the economy takes a wild swing. So we just have to be able to keep an eye on that. You know, I've personally been convinced, you know, comfortable with 10%. I've told councils and advised them, when you look across municipalities, most of them are maxed out around the 10%, 7 to 10%. I do know there's been a couple in the past, which I won't name, that got close to the 20%, and the government said no to some projects, and we're nowhere near that right now. And so if this assessment freeze continues, it might be a little scary. But you know, if it continues on and on. But at the same time, and in this economic condition, you know, there's some, like the city of St. John lowered their income tax, or sorry, their property mill rates this year to help out the citizens, and maybe councils, that was never brought up for staff to follow that route this year, that they're happened to freeze into town of St. Andrews. But there could be some pressures moving forward for that as well. And, you know, that'd have to be a question I put to council early on. I mean, but again, it goes back to overall, even if, you know, operations, I think we have a lot going on, there's no doubt about it, but I think we run a pretty lean ship department by department, meaning that if you said to me cut 15% from the budget or even 5%, it would be discussion of what services you need to cut, honestly. And again, everybody has it. The provincial government has it, the federal government has it, and lots of municipalities have it. And so those are all conversations that may need to happen, but I don't think they're there right now. You know, staff, through me, held the operations at pretty near flat just to try to participate, which means more went, a little bit extra we had went into the capital programs. And so we're doing our bit. But maybe the lesson learned is, you know, 10 months from now when we start this process all over again, I'll say to council, well, what is your ultimate goal? you know, forgetting operations, what's going to make you really happy to tell your citizens? Is it a lower budget? Is it more operations? Is it? And these are conversations everybody's having all the time, right? The town of St. Andrews is lucky. You know, there's other municipalities that are struggling, similar to like Fredericton, Sackville/Chantramar, New Maryland. We just have assessment bases that are probably on the average higher than most others, which allows us to do a lot of services that other municipalities of 3,000 would never be able to think of achieving. And so, but again, you know, and people come in and complain, rightfully so, my taxes are too high. And I say, okay, and sometimes it's people with secondary properties, which it's a whole different discussion because
Yeah.
it doubles the rate. The province gets all that money, for the record, if you haven't heard me talk to that. But I say, okay, well, and I said, that's legitimate, but if council had to cut services, what services would you like us to cut? And I said, I mean, I'm asking earnestly if you think, so do you think we should shut down the arena? Should we shut down the library? Should you fire all the town staff and go with volunteers? I don't know. And no one actually ever comes back with a good thing. They all like the services that we provide. And I mean, and I know it's different for the new communities that have been brought into St. Andrews. I get that too. But it's really a struggle for people. They like what we have. It's the old, I want to pay less taxes but want more services for it. And you don't have to be an accountant to know that's a really hard budget to balance. And so for now, I think, councils and through my assistants have done well over the last, since my time here to try to keep focused on what's important. And, we have increased services. I'm not saying we haven't, but that's council's willingly knowing that at the time. I didn't hide anything. I said, well, if we want to hire recreation people, what do you think? And they included it. We want to, Public Works, we want an extra sidewalk machine a decade ago in order to increase the downtown snow clearing and get the sidewalks cleared faster. They were happy with that. So my job is to say, here's the services we have, here's what's going to cost you. We can do stuff cheaper, but the level of service, unrelated to money, just the level of service what people are expecting is going to go down if you're okay to live with that, and council's has been. Like I said, our debt load's very manageable. We've, except for the surprise of the Shamcook Lake Dam, our assets are in fairly good condition. But even with the Shamcook Lake Dam, and I mean, we know we have to do something with it, but I'm comfortable that, because I talked to the province about it from this way, I said, well, what should we do about accounting for the dam? They said, I think you're the only municipality that owns a dam in New Brunswick, so they didn't have a good answer for me. So usually when you have stuff like that, different levels of government are willing to participate in funding it because they know it's over and above our normal course of duty to look after certain types of assets. And so even with that, and our future budgets do rely on some funding on that, I feel comfortable the town's good for a decade unless a council goes, starts investing really heavily in something that's not part of the normal course of business. But, most councils, this council specifically, hasn't added a lot of new facilities, just trying to upgrade the ones we have and keep them going. And I think we've done a good job on that.
Good. Thank you, Mr. Spear.
Thank you, Mr. Spear. Now, Councillor Ware.
Yeah, I'll just make a follow-up comment. I think I've stated before that I think there's I don't know what the proper word is, I don't think it's severe, but there is a significant infrastructure deficiency within the old town. It's mainly the streets and what's under the streets. I realize what's under the streets is part the town, part the utility. Storm sewers of the town, water and sewers the utility. So there is we don't know for sure, there's a very good chance we have a very large infrastructure deficiency within the town, just waiting to appear. And it could be any night or any day that a significant cost would have to be incurred. That's my biggest concern. We don't have infrastructure.
And for the record, you don't pay for it either, just so your citizens are aware that for streets and utility, that's all being paid for
That's
anybody
right.
uses.
But it's still, as a councillor, I'm concerned about the infrastructure deficiency that exists within the town. It is substantial, and I did my bi-monthly drive across the province last week. Was totally shocked at the new construction, both commercial and multi-unit dwellings in Miramichi City and Bathurst. Bathurst in particular, I don't know whether anybody lives in a house anymore. There's so many multiple unit dwellings. There's thousands upon thousands of them. And it's everywhere you look, there's new buildings going up. Same thing in Miramichi City. I don't know where the money's coming from. I suspect it's a younger demographic that is willing to get into these type of projects. I know I wouldn't want to get into a project like that at this point in my life. 20 years ago, 30 years ago, maybe I should have, but maybe it's the demographics of the community that's causing such a tremendous amount of building of new units. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Weir. Anyone else? All right, we are at the voting for motion 1 that Councillor Heenan read, that the Council of the Town of St. Andrews approves the 2026 general operating and general capital budget for the Town of St. Andrews, as well as the projections for the same 2027 and 2030 be approved. So we have a mover and we have a seconder. And now here's the question. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Contrary minded?
I'll vote no because
Okay.
I can't abstain.
That's right. So 1 no, and that's Councillor Weir. So it is carried. All right. And we continue with you, Councillor Heenan.
Thank you, Your Worship and Council. The motion number 2, that the Council of the Town of St. Andrews approves the 2026 utility operating fund budget consisting of a total revenue of $1,405,443 and a total expenditure of $1,405,443. And that the utility capital projects for 2026 budget be funded by $557,131 from the utility operating fund, $520,000 from long-term borrowing, $25,000 from the Canada Community Build Fund, $123,705 from capital renewal funding, and $464 from the Utility Capital Reserve Fund. I so move.
Thank you, Councillor Heenan. We need a seconder, Councillor Harland. Any further discussion? Not seeing any, I will go for the vote. All those in favor, say aye. Contrary minded?
Will abstain on this one.
Okay, 1 abstain from Councillor Weir. But it is still carried. Thank you, Council. Thank you, Councillor Heenan, and we're on to the next one.
Thank you, Worship. Reference number FA 251228, capital renewal funding for 2026 to 2028. As part of the reformation, local government finances, the province of New Brunswick is providing council with $1,649,417 between the years of 2026 and 2029 in funds towards the renewal of existing assets. Staff took the current capital budgets, allotted the funding to those assets. However, it should be noted, like the Canada Community Building Fund, this plan can be changed in the future. In order to get access to our allocation in 2026, we need to file a complete document for all 4 years. And the action and motion before council is that the Council of the Town of St. Andrews move that the document titled Town of St. Andrews 2026 to 2029 Capital Renewal Plan, CRP, for the Capital Renewal Funding, CRF, allocations be adopted. I so move, Your Worship.
Thank you, Councillor Heenan. Seconder, Councillor Bennett. Any further discussion, Council? Councillor Weir.
Thank you. My understanding, this is almost a placeholder for capital expenditures over the next 4 years. So I guess we'd be fools not to pass it. That'd be a good way to put it.
Well, essentially, so I guess the way I look at it is all you can really affect, because it's the last year of your mandate, is what happens next year, and then future councils can do what future councils would like to do.
Okay, Councillor Weir? Thank you, Mr. Spear. Any further discussion? All those in favor, say aye. Contrary minded? Abstain? One abstain? No? You're voting for it? Okay. Then it's carried by all. All right. Now we are Public Works and Public Safety. Councilors Bennett and Neal, there's nothing. Economic Development, Business and Culture Committee, Councillor Weir, there's nothing there. Recreation and Environmental Committees, Councillors Gomichelle and Blanchard, nothing. And here we are at Planning and Community Development Committee, Councillors Harlan and Heenan. So take it away.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor.
Sorry,
Oh.
Councillor Harlan, well, no, I didn't want to step, but they're really on page
166?
167. Yeah, there's a letter there that didn't really have any motions or background. So if you don't mind, I can start on that.
Okay.
And then just, so this is regards to Harbortown Builders' proposal on Mowat Drive. And council agreed last month to send it to PAC for their approval, or for their review, sorry. And they said in general they support this bylaw, but they had three recommendations that is before you. And it can be worked into the zoning bylaw that has the conditions of the zoning bylaw that are here, if you would like to. There's been discussion, I let the Harbortown Builders, the proponent, know. They didn't really have any comment, but there could be one or two of those that I question whether it's a good idea or not. So if you don't mind, Councillor Harlan, I can just lead through these and just get councils. So one of the things was that the committee, that the chain link fencing is allowed to serve as a barrier between properties, though they so basically a wood-style fence to be put up. Specifically, I don't know if it's all around or just really in the rear and against the other property. I think there's supposed to be a barrier of trees, if I'm not mistaken anyways. So I don't know if that's necessary, but if council feels they'd like to do that, it's certainly there. There was a note that someone picked up that, if you remember, the new layout has a road that goes around the back to garages, and the front of the house faces a common garden area or green space in the front of or in the middle of all the homes. And somebody did pick up that there should be a back door to the layout. Their case in point, which isn't a bad one, is that if Amazon or whoever, a courier service comes to deliver something, where are they going to put it? But I don't know if that's really within the mandate of the zoning bylaw. That's a far reach, and the builder said it's not a big deal to him anyway. It's you might be able to build it in, but that's abnormal type of recommendation. Maybe after I'm done, I'll let Mr. Henderson talk about it. And they would like to say there's a little bit of discussion back and forth, basically that the homes could not be used for short-term rentals. Long-term, they're kind of okay with if somebody bought them, and then their case in point was that, maybe somebody, it's a seasonal resident who's gone for 5 or 6 months in the wintertime, and it'd be okay, but they didn't want anything under 30 days. I think by the zoning bylaw, it's already built in that it's not supposed to be, but it might be good to build that directly into it. And I've caught Mr. Henderson without a copy of the letter, so I'm being really prepared for it, so I'll give him my copy and speak about the 3 bullet points. If the planners have any recommendations or...
So, Mr. Henderson, would you like to speak on this?
Thank you, Your Worship. So I basically what I would say with this is the kind of thing you can take up and you can add it with your conditions on the integrated development zone. So that zone is basically the conditions that council wants to impose, and it's essentially to provide guidance to that use and how it develops. One thing just to note is veering away from conditions that might change the nature of the application itself. So if you were to require, let's say, entrances facing the exterior drive, one of the things that might be potentially problematic would be, is it changing it from a pocket park neighborhood to something where you have just a development on a street, where those could become the main entrances over time. No, they wouldn't be the service entrance. So it's one thing to note. This is definitely probably within council's purview, but you want to make sure your conditions don't impose a change of the application itself. So is it still a pocket park community where all the houses are facing the shared, common green, or is it just a development where they're facing onto the shared driveway, and in which case it's not really a pocket park community anymore? So that's one thing just to note, and the rest of it, if you have the space for the fence plus the trees, that would just be something to navigate. But I always just a little bit leery of a condition that might change the whole application, is all.
Thank you, Mr. Henderson. Okay. So now we go on with the,
So I guess we do require some direction from council if you want
Okay.
us to amend the zoning bylaw that we'll bring for probably both readings at the 15th. So on those conditions on page 166, and maybe Councillor Harlan could speak to it a bit too, as she's on the committee. But we need direction from council if
so-
you'd like to amend those as per the PAC's views.
okay, and the planning committee. Okay, council?
So I did participate in this PAC meeting by Zoom last week or 2 weeks ago, and I'm intrigued by what Mr. Henderson talked about in terms of changing the nature of the development, because that wasn't what we had talked, that wasn't part of the discussion. The discussion was, for a variety of more practical reasons, do we need a rear entrance versus the idea of a pocket community all facing that common ground. So I guess that, I would go back to the developer or I would suggest we need to have a conversation with the developer to say really what is their intent. Is that a critical piece for them, or is the rear entrance or not an issue? So I guess that would be my concern, is we may need to have another discussion with the developer.
Okay, we can go back and reach out to the developer.
So will this be on hold?
Maybe,
for now?
maybe not.
Table it?
Well, there's no motion before you
No.
tonight. We're just looking at
No.
instruction because we'd like to bring the next readings forward. But we'll have a talk with Harbour Town and see what their thoughts on any of these are. And
Okay.
I understand where Mr. Henderson's coming from, but I'm wondering even if they just put a little door off the garage, if that's sufficient, for instance, as opposed to an entranceway. Because I even had a concern I expressed at the meeting. We don't know, because these are smaller homes, supposedly affordable, and they haven't submitted formal plans yet. They're still working on them. But hypothetically, if the front door's towards a pocket park, we don't want to make sure they're trying to put a door in a bedroom, for instance, right? That we don't know what the potential layout is.
Right.
So I'll talk to them and see if there's any of these are a concern and advise you. We might amend the bylaw according to what he says, then bring it to you and talk to you about that at the next meeting, and then we can finalize it there. If you don't like his suggestions, you can amend it again, or if he's agreeable to all of them or agreeable to 2 or 3 of them, and you might be okay with that. If that sounds fair to everybody.
Yes, but Counselor Heenan has a question. or
Aye.
comment?
Yes, Mr. Henderson, can I ask you a direct question? Sure. Thank you, Your Worship. I'm at the back door again. Like, the whole idea to me was that it was all going to be facing, like, the front. The rear door, once again, it has implications of having a design issue with the builder. I mean, we're going to talk to them about that. The second issue is that if people are looking at the front, they don't want, like, stuff happening at the back. I don't know if that makes sense, but it's like if we have a front door and it's looking out at a green space, then that's where the activity should be, not at the back. And the first thing you will know, and there will be HOA rules, I know, but we'll have stuff hanging out back doors. And so I would rather see a door in the garage or some other type of solution. I like the other two bullets. I have no problem about about the homes being rented, and I have no problems about either a chain link or a wooden fence. I'm happy with either, and I'm sure that the neighbors, I can't speak for them, but I'm sure that they would be happy with either. But once again, if you had a back door, you'd be right in their backyard. And that would just be some of my concern. Thank you, Your Worship, I appreciate it, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Heenan. Any other comments? Oh, Deputy Mayor?
Wouldn't the garage door count as a rear entrance? I mean, presumably, once you enter the garage, there's a door into the dwelling.
Yeah, but from a practical purpose, what they're saying is back to like a curb, or even, a garage door is going to stay shut most of the time, right? And so people,
As with any other door.
yeah, but like with a lot of the houses, say in the subdivision here, wherever, all over town, they have a front entryway off the main street. So this is kind of flipped around and it looks lovely. It's just, there'll be a little confusion, but it's also, the road is not a public road, it's a private access driveway. And half the homes, the back one would even be viewable from Mowat Drive.
Right.
And so, and I'm not disagreeing that maybe we're making a mountain out of a molehill, but it was brought up by the PAC, so we had to bring up for your consideration.
Councillor Gomichel.
Thank you, Worship. Just wanted to throw in that in all the years I've been sitting here, this project had the most people come forward and speak in favor of it, of anything that I can recall, with the exception maybe free cake on Canada Day. We heard from all the neighbors who were very in favor of the project, so I think working with the proponent and a quick conversation with some of the adjacent neighbors could sort this all out and we could get them up and going quickly. Thank you, Your Worship.
Thank you, Councillor Gomichel. So, Mr. Spear, I think just,
Your Worship, just got
oh,
put my
sorry,
hand up
Councillor
for a bit there.
Blanchard. Thank
Yeah.
you. Sorry, I forget about you on there.
No worries. I just wanted to say, while I appreciate the feedback from the PAC, I'm not necessarily in favor of making any changes if it's going to delay the process here at all. Like I said, I appreciate the comments, but again, not knowing the internal layout of the homes, I don't know what a back door would do or how it would how they could squeeze that in, how they could fit that in based on the interior layout. And again, I don't want to change anything, as Mr. Henderson said. I don't want to change the intent of the design of the entire area by adding that back door. And again, to the point about short-term rentals, I think we're all in favor. Well, I can't speak for everyone, but certainly I'm in favor of that. But it's already covered through the zoning. So again, I'm not interested in adding additional detail where we don't need to add detail. So I just wanted to make that point. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Blanchard. Anybody else? So you're going to talk to the builders to see what their thoughts are?
Yeah.
Is what the suggestion is from council. That's what I'm reading. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, that's correct. Can I respond to Councillor Blanchard?
You
Just
may.
one. The only thing was, he's not wrong when he says that it's already in the zoning not to have short-term rentals there.
Yeah.
But bluntly, most people aren't that aware of the zoning bylaws in a community. And to me, it's better to explicitly say you can't do it instead of for them to go back and look through the voting to make sure it's allowed and find themselves not in compliance. So that was the only reason, and Mr. Gopen, who attended the meeting, said the same thing. It's already built in, but to me, it's just from my experience, it's better to state it right there. It might be just making sure is the only reason we thought it'd be good to state it hard and true so everyone is on the same page.
Okay, Councillor Blanchard, does that answer the questions, comments? Oh, Councillor Blanchard, you're okay? Thumbs up. And Councillor Harlan?
Just to Councillor Blanchard's point, though, is this going to cause this won't cause a delay, will it? Or
It shouldn't, it depends. So let's just, for instance,
Putting a back door in will. Because
well,
it'll change it from a pocket park to something else.
well, we have to talk to the developer first. After the meeting at PAC, I saw his truck out there, so I walked and met him at the hockey rink as he was getting off the ice, just to let him know how the meeting went, and he didn't think it'd be that big of a deal. To me, Mr. Henderson brings up a good point, but it might be just as simple as putting an external door on the garage itself, so people aren't going to use that as a patio or anything. It's just going to be a secondary exit, and then that takes care of anyone wanting to access the building, or come up with a plan that will direct people to the natural front of the building.
yeah, okay.
I know in rural Charlotte County, for some reason, all the courier drivers always come to the back door, no matter where you are. So I'm sure we can get people to the front door.
Okay. All right, council, so we are going to talk to the builders, and then the staff will come back to us at a later date. Acceptable? No, it's not a motion, so we don't have to table this. It's just directing staff to do something, which we do sometimes. So thank you, council. Thank you, Mr. Spear. And now we're on to request to be used by PAC for the municipal plan.
Okay.
Councilor Harlan.
Reference number PCD 251203, and the subject is request the views of PAC for bylaw MP 25-01, municipal plan bylaw. And the background is as follows. Council and planners have been working on a new municipal plan as required by the province as a result of the amalgamating Bayside and Shamcook through local governance reform. The first draft of the municipal plan was provided for residents, and public consultations were held by planners from Service New Brunswick, SNBSC. Council and the planners further workshopped feedback received in the consultations regarding the municipal plan in a staff meeting on November the 10th, after which the planners provided an updated draft to council at the regular council meeting on December the 1st. Staff recommends council send the latest draft of the Planning Advisory Committee to request their views on the plan. And the motion is as follows, that the Council of the Town of St. Andrews request the view of the Planning Advisory Committee on the draft municipal plan MP-25 as per the Community Planning Act, Section 110, and I so move.
Thank you. Seconder? Councillor Bennett. Any further discussion, council? Oh, Mr. Henderson.
Sorry.
That's all
There's a
right.
counselor want to jump in. I just wanted to note there's an error that should be corrected.
Okay.
Map 9, page 9, map 1. It doesn't show the change to the Harkness-Glebe Road sections for the rural settlement.
Okay.
You can see that change that was directed by council is reflected on map 2, but map 1 on page 9, that version that was sent to council unfortunately didn't have the corrected map. So if council is to send this to the PAC tonight, my recommendation would be to make a minor modification to staff to include the correct version for map 1.
Okay. One. Correction. So that's a friendly amendment. We don't have, no, it's not. We don't have to do anything?
When it comes to the CPA, there's no friendly amendments.
Okay.
You have to do everything by the
So we
book.
have to do an amendment to include that map correctly. So could I have someone move that? Counselor Heenan, seconder. Counselor Bennett. Now, do you have that down? Mr. Spear? Move to amend? Map 1, before it goes to PAC. Heenan and Bennett. All right, now we need to vote on the amendment. All those in favor, say aye. Contrary minded? Carried. And now we're back to the first motion. All those in, any further discussion? No. Okay. All those in favor, say aye. Contrary minded? Carried. Thank you, Councillor Harland. That finishes us off.
Thank you, Mr. Henderson.
Thank you, Mr. Henderson, and thank you, Mr. Spear, for all the input. All right, now we're into new business. No new business. Yay. Question period. For those in the audience, do you have any questions? Do you have a question or a comment? Hi, come on right up.
I'd like to thank everybody for your time tonight, and the budgets are very difficult to do. I've been doing budgets for 20 some odd years. And I just wanted to make a recommendation that maybe the town look into having a reserve budget. I used to work with 2 different budgets, operating and reserve, and when you had things like the Zamboni, once you got a new Zamboni, you calculate out what the lifespan is, and you start making little deposits every year. So then when it comes up for change, you already have the money for it, and you don't have to budget for it. And when you have water main breaks and things, I always had a budget for that per year. It is very disruptive to try and change a complete water main underground, and it's always been recommended by people who've been, at least to me, been recommended to me to only deal with it as it comes up. And I was dealing with something that was over 50, 60 years old. So, you know, we would have 40 grand a year in case there was a water main break or manhole or something like that. So, and if you didn't use it, the money goes back into the reserves. It keeps gaining interest and things like that. So it really helps with those planning of the capital expenditures, and it actually helps with the operating as well. And then when you have money left over in the operating, you can put it in there, which is gonna, again, save you money in the future. So I think what Councillor Weir was saying is that, you know, maybe we should be looking at a different way of approaching and maybe adding a bit more to it. It does take a lot of work, Chris. I wouldn't put that on anyone, but if I could help, I would. But anyways, if somebody could think about that, I think it would really help in the long term. The other comment that I wanted to make is there's a lot of people that are cautioning about 2026, about homeowners whose 5-year mortgages are going to be coming up, and they will probably not be able to get the interest rates that they were getting before. And I think people are really, the next 2 years could be very difficult for a lot of our residents. So, you know, it is really important to kind of keep that, although that's a private matter and the town can't really help them individually. Controlling the tax assessments was a great step towards acknowledging that the next couple of years could be difficult.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Would you please give your name, because it's, you didn't do it at the beginning?
Sorry, I've got a
That's
bit of
okay.
a cold. Brenda Hooper-Rowland, 3791 Route 127.
Thank you
Thanks.
very much, just for the people who don't know you. All right, thank you for those comments. Okay, so any questions from the online? Or comments from the online? Mac?
Nobody with comments on Zoom or email.
Okay, so we are at Councillor and Deputy Mayor's comments. Councillor Weir.
I'll make one comment with respect to what Brenda, I'll make one comment with respect to what Brenda mentioned about the mortgage rates. In 2021, I convinced a lot of people to get rid of their variable mortgages and lock their mortgage rates in at 2.59%. I still remember what it was. And they questioned me whether that was a smart idea or not, but I convinced them it was. 5 years is up, 5 years from now, that the 2.59 ceases, and who knows what the interest rates will be then. But they'll certainly be higher than 2.59. And it is something we have to be aware of with that portion of our citizens that are holding mortgages. They're going to get hit, and perhaps hit hard, who knows. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Weir. Anyone else? Councillor Heenan.
You knew you wouldn't get away scot-free, didn't you? I'd just like to say a huge thank you to the town staff, and included that is the folks who work at the town hall. You know, it's a thankless job sometimes, Mr. Spear, but I always thank you, and I think that as a council, or as a counselor, I'll speak for myself, I think that we are quite privileged and very lucky to have such a wonderful in-house staff, and I know I appreciate it. Thank you, Your Worship.
Thank you, Councillor Heenan. Anybody else? Okay, that's you guys. Now the mayor's comments. I have a little list here. I've always been asking for bags, and I was shocked when someone called me and said, I have a bunch of bags. I took, I think it was over 95 bags that were delivered to the food banks, and they were so appreciative because at this time of the year, they've got heavy things to carry. But then, Alton Bubar Sales called, and I want to thank them because they've given me boxes full of bags, and I'm looking for people who can help deliver them to the food banks because they're down at the town barn, and I'm sure they want to get rid of them out of there. So that is also what he did. But he also brought in craft dinner for them. So I'll be able to take those in a few boxes at a time. But I would appreciate if anybody's going to St. George to the food bank, or anyone's going to the food bank in St. Stephen, to take some of these bags with them and drop them off saying thank you. And I did write a thank you to his, Alton Bubar Sales, because that's all he asked for all these wonderful bags and craft dinner. So I did write a thank you on behalf of the town and for the food banks, and I accepted them. The second thing was that I attended Santa's Helpers yesterday. The CHCO crew were fantastic, but also the Santa Helpers crew were fantastic. And there were 3 mayors there. Alan McEachran from St. Stephen, Mayor John Craig from Eastern Charlotte, and myself from St. Andrews. And I wore my bling, Mr. Spear, but nobody else did. So and I was shocked because John Craig always wears his bling. So, and I commented about it, him not wearing it, because we laughed, and it was fantastic. But Santa's Helpers earned for the children and the families that need assistance at Christmas time $63,000, $63,371. That's going to help a lot of families and a lot of children have a very Merry Christmas, and it's all due to the volunteers, to the people that work at CHCO TV. They do a lot. Flo, who's in the background for us for our meetings, did an awful lot of work, and so did all their volunteers, their crew. They were fantastic. They worked very hard. The phones were ringing, and it was really nice. So thank you very much for all that you do to help out in our community. I really appreciate it. and buy the seat calendars. I finally found out they cost $25, and you can get them at Sunbury Shores or you can get them online. Oh, they're at the Leather House too. So what I saw from the advertisement, this is what I got from him. So thank you, Councillor Heenan. I had to go to the lighting ceremony of the buoys, and thanking Kevin was great, but Nathan McMillan designed my candy cane push thing, and it was really easy to do, and it was just fantastic. I, too, have not seen that many people, and people kept coming up and saying how they liked the candy cane and they liked the buoy tree, and that the lighthouse on the top was really nice, but they think it should have more lights on it because it's very dark in the middle. I said I would pass that along, but I didn't want to say that to Nate because he'd probably get mad at me, but because I already teased him enough on when we were doing the lighting, but it went off very, very well. Are you going to interrupt me?
A little bit, just to add something to that, though. The lighthouse on the top is an exact replica of the lighthouse on Patrick Street.
Pendlebury.
The Pendlebury Lighthouse, thank you.
You're welcome.
I knew I couldn't say it, I'd start, but,
And
I'm
I know
losing it.
that.
Yeah.
I know that, but they could.
No, what I was going to say, though, they're raffling it off.
They are going to, not
This-
that one. They're going to make another one, aren't they, and raffle that one?
Well,
I don't know.
don't know. Kevin, I thought, said they're going to raffle that one and maybe make
And
another
make a
one
new one
next
for
year.
next year?
And so the
Okay.
money will go again to the food bank. So if you're downtown
that's
at the Red
awesome.
Herring, they have raffle tickets for the Pendlebury Lighthouse. It's about
I didn't know
4
where they
feet
were
tall,
selling
and
them.
I'll tell Terry to buy some big floodlights to hit the top of that tree next year. So and see if
Yes.
we can get that put up.
It was very nice, though, and the crowd was lovely. I walked around through the crowd, and they were amazed at how much they raised with the buoy tree, and the fact that it went off without a hitch. So I thank our staff again, because we do have one of the best staffs. I've always said that, and in the town office and those guys on the street, they're fantastic. So thank you very much. And all I want to say is that we probably will see you on TV, but Merry Christmas and Happy New Year from all of the council. And I thank you, council, for helping me get through this time that I've been in the interim for the ex-mayor. I will say, Augustino, when I was on the show with Augustino, he was very upset because Mr. Henderson wasn't there, and I was there, and I didn't have a flashy costume like Augustino had, but I still participated and did the job. So, and that's all I have to say, and we have to go into closed council. So, closed session. So thank you very much, and you guys, everybody have a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. We'll see you in the new year, if not before. And so we have a closed session, and it's at 8:48 p.m. that the council will move into the closed session per the Local Governance Act of Section 68. We don't know. Something. So we'll put that back, we'll put that in there, but at 8. So I need a, oh, look at them
Actually,
all
Your Worship,
go.
just to hold off for half a second. We are supposed to announce that.
Okay. So hold on.
I knew that and I forgot before I came
It says
tonight.
contract negotiation,
Yeah,
but we don't have a number.
Section I.
Section 9?
I, as in
Oh, Section
ice
I,
cream.
sorry. Okay, so Section 68I, and I need a mover, Counselor Heenan, and seconder, Deputy Mayor Neal. All those in favor, say aye. Contrary minded? Carried. We'll give you a few minutes to get out of here, CHCHO, and then we will continue on. CHCO. Thank you.